Hey everybody, welcome to Tracing Masterpieces. In this video we'll be creating some artwork outside. I figured this would be a good way to kind of break my pattern of sitting inside at the computer all day. My other line of work requires me to spend a lot of time doing that. So I want to try this, get outside, do some artwork, let my mind kind of be free from things and just clear itself, and I don't know, kind of be one with nature, I guess you could say, and just let my creativity flow, kind of like the weather, like the wind, and see where it goes, basically. So I've thought about how I would do this, and I thought of this idea of attaching like this table binder type of thing to a tripod so that you have like this surface to draw on. And I've attached one of my old action cameras to it, so it's kind of small, it's easy to just mount onto this setup. And so it might not look that great, I'm just using what I have. If this becomes a good format, maybe I'll improve it, upgrade it, that sort of thing. What I have here is a ink brush pen. I haven't used one of these, but I'm gonna try it and see how it goes. I have an interest in just kind of keeping it simple with like black lines, and I think it'll look good that way. Okay, so as you can see, I have my paper set up here. I'm not sure how the quality looks on the cameras, but this is just an experiment to see how this works out. We have this shadow from the sun casted from my camera, so it's kind of a downside with recording it, but that's all right. I'm not gonna try and be too accurate as to what I'm trying to draw. The whole point of this is just to kind of let my mind be free and not constricted to the standard operations that you go through every day, you know, the daily routines. So what I'm going to be focusing on is basically the patterns and textures around that I see, that I can observe, and just become inspired by that. Kind of get the feeling of the texture and the way things are flowing and that sort of stuff, and just kind of try and channel it through me. One thing, if you want to try and do this, it's always good practice to kind of warm yourself up through some exercises, I guess, some stretching. You know, like if you go to the gym, you don't want to just completely jump into like lifting heavy weights and that sort of thing. You want to do some stretches and do some light weights and things like that to kind of warm up your system and get things flowing. Same thinking you should have with your art, and basically anything you do. If you're gonna try and do something, if you're gonna try and be constructive about it. So one idea that I came up with is just like drawing basic shapes like squares, cubes, spheres, things, just patterns and stuff, just to get your hand and eye coordination going and your mind to kind of understand what you're doing. If you just try and jump into things, you're going to be kind of confused and not conditioned to that specific operation at the time. So you got to kind of work yourself into it, and this process applies to everything that you do. It's just something I noticed. So I'm not going to do that right now because this is just kind of an experiment, and I'm not trying to work towards something or be that constructive about what I'm actually creating here. So, but that's just something you should keep in mind. So I see some grass and cattails and stuff like that. It's very linear and long, so I'm just going to kind of be inspired to kind of create some long lines here. Kind of parallel, and I just kind of want to feel that sense of pattern. I'm not really looking too much at what I'm drawing because I'm not too concerned with that. I'm more interested in how this brush pen is gonna work, because I haven't really used it before, and so I'm kind of learning how that's gonna work out for me. The cattails and grass kind of have like a bendy shape to them, very angular as well. They all come to like a point on the tips of the blades, so that's something that this brush pen seems to be good at expressing when you change the direction. And how much pressure you put on the brush pen kind of affects how thick the lines are, I'm noticing. If I go very lightly and just barely touch the brush to the page, it gets a very thin line, but if I maybe go more towards a slanted or angled position and apply it that way, I get more thicker lines. So that's kind of interesting dynamic to work with. And I don't want to put too many lines in the same area, because that might affect composition of things. It might look too crowded, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get away from, the constricted and crowded nature of my life. That's why I'm out here in space, open space. I noticed that you tend to need more space if you want to accomplish things or change direction. You need movement to like rotate and shift and that sort of thing. So if you can find space to do stuff, then, and you can find it, then I think you're lucky to have that. So I have to kind of consider this something good, you know, look on the bright side of things, be positive, not negative, and that helps. Being in the right mindset, you know, that your mindset can kind of affect how you act and how you create your artwork. Like if you're sad and depressed, that's gonna manifest in your work that you do, and you'll be able to notice it. And that's when I look at other people's artwork, you kind of can tell certain things about the person that created the artwork and what their mindset might be in that process, especially if they're more unique of a person, I guess. If they're not doing like work for other people, you know, if it's not like a job or whatever, if they're just expressing whatever comes to them, then usually the thing that they're most expressive about is themselves, because that's just how people are. So I kind of like this pattern that I have here, and hopefully this is recording it. Yep. So we have some dark areas with like the shadows of the trees kind of casted on the plants. So maybe I might want a larger dark area over here. I'm not too concerned with like the accuracy of where details line. I'm not trying to recreate what I'm drawing. I'm just kind of trying to become inspired by what I see and observe, and it's kind of fun that way, because you don't know what you're gonna end up with. You know, you're just kind of seeing what happens and building off of that. And the thing about this pen ink brush is what I do, I can't really change it all that much. Like the ink, I can't erase it. I can maybe draw over it with some like white, what do you call it? Whiteout, I guess. But I don't have any of that with me, so that's not an option. I noticed like when I drag this brush really quickly, it kind of gets like a textured look to it, if you could see that. That's kind of cool. So that's something that you could use. So that guy was riding some motored bicycle. I don't know what they're called. I thought about getting one of those. Oh man, gotta be careful or get ink on me. I'm not used to using these ink brushes. Uh-oh. So what else can I draw? We have like some power lines in the background, and those are kind of interesting, so maybe I'll draw something like that. I have to look at the structure of it. In this case, I kind of want to be accurate just because I like the structure that it has, although I'm probably not going to be that accurate because this brush pen's kind of not something I'm used to working with. So we have like this straight line. I managed to draw that pretty straight, so that's good. This is still just checking whether it's still recording. It's hard to see the light because the sun kind of overpowers it. Sun's really a nice thing. I tend to be talkative when I am alone and, you know, just can let my mind flow. It's something I need to do more often. Oh man, I messed that up. These lines don't pattern doesn't look quite right. It's alright. It's not supposed to be accurate, it's just supposed to be like inspired. Okay. So there's another line that goes back here. I'm not drawing all the lines or all the details, just whatever interests me. I like the power line structured, what are those things called? Powered electric towers? Something like that. I like those because they have straight parts that kind of cross over each other, creating like an X, and angles and that sort of thing. And it just kind of captures your mind, your focus in the corners and the places where things change. It kind of draws you into those points. And I think our minds kind of operate in the same way. If you think how we structure everything in life and try to find correlations between everything, and we categorize stuff based on their characteristics and things that they share or don't share. For example, with evolution and all the animals and the different families and species that they have, they're all just living things, but we categorize them differently based on the pattern that they went through and their history and that sort of thing. And we're all creating a pattern. We're all a part of this thing that repeats and continues through time, and that's something I have a great interest in. Maybe I'll draw my bike. My bike's over there. You can see over here, this is what I see. we have some trains in the background and birds flying around. So I could be inspired by those things as well. You know, just whatever comes to mind. So I'll draw my bike just because it's right over there. That's something I have to get used to, is just kind of accepting the imperfections of my art so that I can allow it to flow quicker and not be so hesitant to place down details and things like that, because that tends to be a problem with some artists, is that they're too concerned with like how things will end up, that they don't start or they don't begin, or they just can't bring themselves to do stuff. They're worried about how things might end up, and that's a problem I have as well, not with my art but with other things in life. And you know, everything connects in some way. If you recognize how something affects you in one area, it also can be applied to other things in other areas of your life. And that's something that you can exercise as an artist, because you're always observing things. You're practicing your ways of observation. Like, I wouldn't be able to talk like this the way that I am if I didn't observe things the way that I do. I'm drawing some horizontal lines here just to kind of give the impression that there's some like ground. Kind of drawing them a bit close together to kind of give the impression of depth. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I'll stop there for this one.